All right, you guys, our favorite young Mormon lad, Nicholas mother frickin' Shirley, dude. This kid is a stud. Let's call a spade a spade. He's a stud. Let's call a stud a stud. No, I think what he's been able to accomplish in revealing the level of fraud in Minnesota is commendable. What he's done is absolutely commendable, and we gotta thank Nick, man. I mean, I like to call him, Big Dick Nick overall, just because I think he's got the cojones, dude. I think my man's got the cojones. He's doing it right, man. He's doing it right. Just pulling out all the stops. Kicking butt, my bronies. So where do we go from here? Nick Shirley reveals Minnesota fraud. Cool. We're happy about this. We're like really stoked, bro. My brony bros. Because we all know that we kind of don't, not just kind of, we definitely don't trust Tim Wells on this channel. Like the Michael Garza show, as much as we talk about our love for Tim Wells, we also don't trust Tim Wells. We think he's a lying sack of you-know-what. And, yeah, I think he deserves to be called out for, in my opinion, being one of the worst governors I've ever seen in my life. He's an incompetent boob. And, guys like that, they get into their positions through kissassery. And sometimes it's kind of impressive how they're able to do it. Like, it kind of blows my mind how they're able to pull it off sometimes. I think it really is impressive. So we're gonna react to a little bit of Nick Shirley, the GOAT, legend, one of one. So let's take a look. Oh, this just in. Forbes breaking news. House Judiciary Committee holds a hearing about fraud with testimony from Nick Shirley. Okay, cool. These ads don't make a lick of sense.
Is authorized to declare recess at any time. We welcome everybody to today's hearing, and I mean everybody who's in here and everybody who will come in here is welcome to come in here and participate and watch and participate orderly. But our hearing is on fraud and theft of taxpayer dollars. I now recognize the gentlewoman from Florida, Ms. Lee, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hell yeah, dude. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. All right, I want to see the part with Nick Shirley, though. Where's Nick? Big Dick Nick.
Been here in Minnesota.
For extended periods of time. We look forward to hearing from Mr. Shirley about what he was able to uncover. But how did we get here? Hopefully another witness, Scott Dexter, a former fraud investigator for the Minnesota Department of Human Services, can shed some light on that for us. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that this massive wave of fraudulent activity didn't just have the consequence of ripping off taxpayers. It has drastically impacted legitimate organizations.
Oh, shit. Our brony bro, Feline Gaming, said, "Bro, I made another fan art. It's you at your alma mater." Okay, before we continue watching this, I gotta see what our fellow brony bro is saying. Let's take a look. It's an interview channel. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to see what this is. We're gonna visit the community reluctantly. I look. You made me look a lot fatter than I actually am, but that's pretty funny. I mean, it's sort of accurate. I'm kind of a big boy, but the resemblance is pretty close. It's It's insidious. Oh my god, it's insidious. Oh my god. This is great. So this is me at my alma mater, the Quality Leering Center. Kudos to Feline Gaming for generating this with AI. Here I am outside. Here's totally me outside of the Quality Leering Center. I can't. I kind of look like John Madden a little bit. I got the John Madden double chin a little bit. I like it. Nah, it's pretty funny though, man. That's great. I'm gonna give this a like. This is fabulous. I'm also gonna leave a comment on it. I got my doctorate from that institution. I got my doctorate from that institution. Thank you, my brony bro. There we go. All right, let's keep going. Yep, the comment says I got my doctorate from that institution. Thank you, my brony bro. It's my alma mater, dude. Quality Leering Center. Woo-hoo. I was outside of the Quality Leering Center, leering hard. Hey, make sure you guys tap the like button if you can. More likes we get, the better. It does help the channel grow. It helps my pee-pee grow, sort of.
That are truly helping their neighbors. Jennifer Larson.
Hey, thank you again, by the way, to Feline Gaming for creating that beautiful AI. That is gorgeous, dude. That is too funny, man. All right, let's keep watching. Let's not waste any time, boys and goyles.
Is here today to share her story about how this massive fraud has crippled her organization that serves autistic children. We'd like to think that these fraudsters will one day face justice, but it appears that is not always the case.
You know that's not happening, boy.
For example,
you know that ain't
Ali,
happening.
A daycare and home health care owner charged with stealing millions from Minnesota taxpayers after being granted bail, disappeared before a trial, and has not been located since. That was more than a decade ago.
You know, I mean, this makes me want to start a business in Minnesota. For all the wrong reasons, by the way. For all the wrong reasons.
Tentacles of this fraud ring are widespread and include crimes other than fraud. For example, the aforementioned Yasmin Ali. Her brother, Adaris Abdullah Ali, pleaded guilty in 2009 to lying to federal grand jury about his knowledge of a group of young Somali men in Minneapolis who traveled to Somalia to fight with al-Shabaab, a foreign terrorist organization against the transitional federal government of Somalia. We can also consider the fact that
all hail Somalia.
At least $700 million in U.S. cash transported via passenger luggage through Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. The incidents are all currently under federal investigation.
I stand with Somalia. I mean, I should say I'm standing up and I'm walking away from Somalia. Minnesota really should just... Honestly, Minnesota should just rename their state. I mean, they already turned their flag into a quasi-Somalian flag anyway. So they might as well just rename Minnesota New Somalia. Straight up. New Somalia, man. Just do it. It's clear. And you know what? Here's what I want. All the leftists in California, all the leftists in Oregon, I hope you guys just go over. I just hope you guys move to Minnesota. I hope all the crazy woke people in the U.S. just move all the way over to Minnesota, man. That's all I'm asking.
With the majority carried by couriers traveling to Somalia, other African nations, and the Middle East. While no definitive links to funding terrorism have been established.
By the way, once again, I want to give a big shout out to Feline Gaming, by the way. Calling me Dr. Garza. No, but yeah, no, seriously, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, man. Thank you for that fan art. That was beautiful. Hey, guys, make sure you guys please subscribe to the channel. We're looking to get more subscribers. We just reached 7K. I mean, we just reached 7,000 subscribers very recently. And it was last night. So if we could get more subscribers, that'd be great. We're on our quest to 8,000. We're on our quest to 8,000, and then once we get to 8,000, we're going to 9,000 subscribers, and once we go from 9,000, we're going to 10,000, dude. I want to get 10,000 subscribers ASAP. I want to see what we could do to get to 10,000. So just even the simple act of subscribing to the channel really helps us grow in more ways than one, and I appreciate everybody's efforts here in keeping this channel alive and keeping this channel fresh, because I know for sure my mussy is not fresh. All right, let's keep going.
Yet. We know that hundreds of millions of dollars in cash are being transported to areas where foreign terrorist organizations are active. What could possibly go wrong? A whistleblower has alleged that TSA personnel at MSP, Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport, repeatedly identified and flagged routine encounters with Somali men carrying large suitcases filled with bundled cash, often exceeding $1 million. During an interview, a former TSA agent at MSP from 2016 to 2021, now a whistleblower, Liz Jackson, noted that she saw, quote,
Feline Gaming says, and then we do what we did. Oh, no. No, don't say that. I know you're just joking, Feline Gaming, but don't try not to say that stuff.
Suitcases packed with millions of dollars in cash moving through MSP again and again, carried by the same type of couriers, which raised questions that she feels law enforcement and political leaders still haven't answered, close quote. Jackson further explained her repeated encounters with Somali men carrying suitcases packed with cash, and in one case, a bag filled with new passports. According to Jackson, the volume, consistency, and profile of the transactions she witnessed were well beyond ordinary or everyday behavior. Treasury.
Give me a few moments, you guys. I need to do some shopping real quick. I'm looking to get a Joe Biden bra and women for Biden. It's just, I decided I need to get some Biden. I need Biden gear. Joe Biden, riding with Biden. Give me 1 second here. Here we go. Okay, that's interesting. I like Joe Biden, he's number one. I love him, he's lots of fun. I like Joe Biden, he's number one. What's up, Larry Allen, my brony brother? Hell yeah, dude. Women for Biden. Okay, let's go, Brand. Oh, Biden. Yeah, dude. I'm just going on Amazon looking up Joe Biden stuff, and Biden will never. It's so funny how many anti-Biden shirts there are. Stay creepy. Hell yeah, dude. I need that shirt. Fuck yeah, dude. I like Joe Biden. He's number one. I love him. He's lots of. I was trying to look for a Joe Biden bra, but there's no Joe Biden bras. It sucks, dude. So the only thing I could do was, the only thing I could do is just look at these Joe Biden shirts and, wow, some of these Joe Biden pictures, some of these products on Amazon are a little cray-cray, dude. Keep watching.
Treasury Secretary Scott Dexter has noted that the department is
I'm
currently
serial,
investigating
dude.
where
I'm
Minnesota's
serial.
taxpayer dollars
I'm
are
serious.
being placed. Additional reports show that Somali individuals in the United States send roughly $215 million abroad each year. On January 9th, Secretary Besant indicated that the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, informed 4 money transfer organizations that they're under investigation for their roles in the fraud scheme involving the theft of funds.
You guys, don't forget to tap the subscribe button and then also tap the like button. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. We're currently sitting pretty at 7,000. But yeah, if you guys could tap the subscribe button, though, it really does help quite a bit. Thank you so much.
From social services in Minnesota. He also indicated that some banks in Minnesota are being investigated by the Internal Revenue Service's Civil Enforcement Division for allegations related to money laundering.
Hell
As you
yeah.
can see, there's much to unpack surrounding these numerous fraud schemes taking place in and around Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Let's go, dude. Reveal that fraud, dude.
I would be remiss if I didn't suggest And
I love Nick Shirley, dude. This kid is so tight. This kid's the man, dude. Nick Shirley's the GOAT. I can't wait to see what he reveals in this meeting. He is the man, and I'm the woman. Oh, what did I do? I clicked a button.
urge additional investigation throughout this entire country. I know that in my home state of Arizona, our Democrat Attorney General came in to office and quickly said that there had been $2.5 million in fraud just in the Medicaid program alone. And in recent studies released over the last year in Arizona,
That's a lot of fraud.
it's been suggested that as much as $7.2 billion in fraud annually take place in Arizona's similar programs. So this is not just a Minnesota issue, but it just happens to be at the forefront.
Oh, it probably happened. I think California, I wouldn't be surprised if California had more fraud than any of the states. I wouldn't even be surprised if Oregon had more fraud because we are so, I mean, I don't know who's more leftist, Minnesota or Oregon, but either way, both of those states are ran poorly, including California. California's ran like dog crap, dude. Seriously. It's ran like absolute dog crap. And I think most people know it. Minnesota. All right, we need 30 gifts, everybody. Give Zaddy the gifts, dude. I'm the grift that keeps on griving, baby. Yeah, all the smart people are. Here's the thing: all the rich people are going to the place where there's like no state income tax. And those are the best places to go, man. Just avoid any place that has too high of state income tax, really.
Of why we're here today. I look forward to today's hearing, and I thank the members and witnesses for taking part. Now yield back and recognize the ranking member, Ms. McBath, for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for convening this hearing this morning to talk about the harm that fraud can cause. And thank you for everyone that is here this morning to testify. It's so necessary that we continue to investigate and prosecute all forms of fraud, including government fraud, which can turn many into victims. That is because a person committing fraud against a government program steals from all of us as taxpayers and abuses the purpose, initial purpose of these programs. They harm the organizations that need these programs to operate, and most importantly, they harm the people that the program is designed to help. Whether we're talking about a program that feeds school children, helps seniors find housing, helps people over.
Give me one moment. I'm not gonna lie. I'm craving a mixed drink right now, and I'm gonna mix Sprite with something else. I'm not gonna say what it is, but I think you guys know what I'm mixing my Sprite with. BRB. Hold on. Let's just say I made a little mixed drink. Joshua Flash, what's going on, my brony? My brony brothers. Hell yeah. California is a failed state, by the way, just to let everybody know. Let's keep rolling.
Overcome addiction or provide services to address disabilities, it is critical that the dollars that we invest in these programs actually serve the purposes that we have in mind when we, the lawmakers, created them. That's why the Department of Justice has always combated fraud, including prosecuting dozens of people for perpetrating fraudulent schemes in Minnesota in 2021 and under the Biden administration. But prosecutions are not enough to combat or prevent fraud. So the Biden administration also established a...
Oh, we got Feline Gaming about to do push-ups. Hell yeah, dude. Get it. Get it, my brony. Get it. Hey, guys, make sure you guys tap the subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, the better. We just reached 7,000 subscribers. We're currently on pace to get to 8,000. We're right there, man. We're always at the doorstep of, like, the next step up, so we're going to keep improving. But we can't do it without you guys, so please, for the love of God, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow, and it helps push us out on the algorithm a little further. And if you can, like the stream, too. Liking the stream really does help.
COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement Task Force and increased oversight of programs that were being targeted by fraudsters. Minnesota lawmakers have also taken steps to reduce fraud in their state, strengthening the state's ability to stop potential fraud sooner and improving investigations to hold those scammers accountable. But President Trump has taken a very different approach to fraud. Just last week, Trump added quite a few fraudsters to his growing list of people that he has pardoned, not because they are deserving a second chance, but because they hired his friends, back-channeled a donation.
You could tell already where this lady stands. You could tell this is a woke... I think she's a woke person. That's what I'm thinking. That is my best guess. That is my best guess that she is a wokey. Let's keep going.
Or serve his political purposes. He has pardoned many people.
No, it's political porpoises, not political purposes. When will you ever lear how to speak?
Charged or convicted of fraud and other financial crimes, wiping away more than $1 billion in money that would otherwise have gone to victims of crime. President Trump has also fired inspectors general, instructed his DOJ to stop enforcing bribery statutes, and gutted the offices that investigate white-collar crime. That is how we know this hearing is not really about fraud. It is about trust. The Trump administration does not want you to trust these programs because if you don't trust them, they're easier to destroy them. They do not want you to trust entire communities because if you...
By the way, you know why we don't trust certain communities? Because they show a pattern of behavior. And when it's disproportionately that one community doing all the fraud, I think you know how we feel. We don't like it. And by the way, I would like to see more fraud. I would like to see more fraud detection protocols in the government itself, whether it's on the state level or on the federal level. I would love it if we had more fraud detection systems in Oregon, but we don't. Or in Washington or California. It seems all the blue states, though, and by the way, I'm not excluding red states, but it seems like the blue states are very soft on crime. And I find that to be a problem. I find that to be an absolute problem and a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Let's keep going, my brony brothers.
If you don't trust them, they're easier to intimidate. But we cannot let that happen. We will continue to fight for...
By the way, those 34 counts, or whatever the hell you're talking about, They were all done. They were all done by the New York Justice Department or whatever. New York, by the way, is filled with leftist liberals, and those 34 counts were bullshit counts. Most of those counts would have been a misdemeanor, by the way, a misdemeanor. Keep that in mind. So, like, I understand people don't like Trump, but those 34 counts were absolute dog shit. And I think you guys know it. I think you know it.
Robust and responsible
I'm gonna clip my nails
oversight
while I watch
and
this.
for the continuation of initiatives that make all of our communities safer, healthier, and more resilient. Across the country, there are daycares, schools, hospitals, treatment centers, research facilities, nursing homes, fire departments, police departments, airports, and more that all depend on state or federal funding, not just to help those in need, but to serve every single one of them.
Yeah, well, here's the problem. If some of these programs are rife with fraud at a massive scale, sometimes you got to put a halt to the funding. Sometimes you gotta. And if some of these places don't have auxiliary funds behind them, then that's a problem. They need to have auxiliary funds. Because what if the faucet gets shut off because you guys have allowed too much fraud, then the faucet deserves to be shut off.
Of us. If President Trump succeeds in an attempt to freeze child care funding across 5 states, which is temporarily blocked by a court order, the effects would ripple across families and businesses throughout our economy. It would affect more than 500,000 children. And these are children that are not just within the state of Minnesota, but 500,000 children, their parents, the businesses and organizations where those parents work, and the many people who depend on those businesses to fulfill needs in those communities.
All right.
That's the fallout from just one program addressing one need across only 5 states. If President Trump continues this assault on critical programs, the harms could be far greater.
I don't know. I think the biggest harm that I'm seeing right now is the fact that you guys in Minnesota turned a blind eye to fraud for so long that we don't trust that any of our tax dollars are going to the right place. And it's a damn shame that the Supreme Court didn't take a look at a lot of the evidence and think, you know what, maybe we should halt funding to this state that's committing all this fraud. And I can't wait, by the way, I cannot wait to see the reveal of, like, Ohio. Nick Shirley's going to Ohio. But yeah, no, we should be upset about this. This is legit shit. Royal 007 Cowboy 8, what up, dude? My brony brother, dude. No, but I'm so sick of this. And anybody who's defending the fraud, just let the door hit you on the way out.
These latest attacks come on top of the cuts that President Trump and congressional Republicans already forced through, which are taking health care from 10 million Americans and reducing food assistance to over 40 million Americans, including many, many children. We don't have to choose between programs that are susceptible to fraud and nothing at all. With proper oversight, we can make sure that...
With proper oversight is the big headline there. How many times have you guys promised proper oversight and nothing actually happens? The fraud keeps happening at a massive scale, and one community is part of that fraud? Tell me. We don't trust you. We don't trust that you're going to be able to implement these safeguards or these oversights. We don't trust you. We don't trust you is what we're saying. And that's a big deal. Trust is the issue here. We don't trust that our tax dollars are going to anything valuable. If anything, all we think about is the fact of the matter is, why should we pay? You guys have given us every reason. Now, I'm still going to pay my taxes, just to let you know. But I can understand somebody standing up and saying, you know what? I'm not paying. I get it from that point of view. Basically, this is taxation without representation. This is taxation without representation. And it's a huge problem.
Every American is fed, that everyone can access housing and medical treatment, and that our daycares and our schools can keep guiding our children towards a better future. I look forward to hearing more today about how we can achieve this goal. I thank our witnesses for being here, and I yield.
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan. No, I don't recognize him right now, but I will recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Raskin, for his opening statement.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to all of our witnesses for joining us. In a just world, the Judiciary Committee today would be investigating why a masked ICE agent shot 3 times in cold blood and killed an unarmed...
You know what? I think we all know what Renee Good did. She put herself in a very, very dangerous situation by blocking traffic, by her hitting the ICE officer with her SUV. That's the problem. That's the main problem. Now, by the way, the ICE officer was also in the wrong. I don't believe he needed to shoot her. I think him shooting her was a bad thing. I want to make that clear. But I also want to say this. Her hitting the ICE officer with her car, is also a bad thing. Two can be wrong. Both parties in this instance can be wrong. Both people involved in the incident. The two that tangoed. This is bad.
Armed citizen, a 37-year-old mom, Renee Nicole Good. We'd be investigating why Trump's DOJ is harassing and investigating Renee's wife instead of investigating her.
Actually, they should investigate her wife because she was the one agitating the ICE officers like crazy. Her wife was honestly 99% of the problem. I'm going to say that Renee Good was still in the wrong for listening to her, wife. And, her wife, if you watch the video, it's pretty clear as day that her wife is agitating the ICE officer the whole time and being a total piece of shit. I would already be enraged. And, I just don't think we need to deal with these leftists anymore. And we don't need to placate to them. If they're going to hit us with vehicles, we're gonna fight back a little bit, quite a bit. So I think what happened to Renee Good is still a tragedy, but it could have been prevented. All she had to do was not block traffic and not interfere with an ICE investigation, and also not hit the ICE agent with her freaking car. Let's keep going.
Killer. We'd be asking why ICE agents are trained in basic CPR, but 911 tapes have shown none of the agents performing CPR on Ms. Good. They left her bleeding alone in her car for almost 3 minutes and definitively rejected the help of a man who came forward and identified himself as a doctor. We'd be
And by the way, these are all my opinions, just to let everybody know. I have a right to an opinion. I have a right to my own analysis. I make up my own judgments the same way that you guys make up your own. So just want to make that clear.
Investigating why in another Minnesota case, ICE agents deployed tear gas under the car of a family of 8 people, including a 6-month-old, a 2-year-old, and 2 kids with severe asthma who were just trying to get home from a basketball game. The baby stopped breathing, and his mom had to administer CPR as they desperately waited for medical help to arrive. But our colleagues want to talk about fraud in Minnesota. Fraud that was already being investigated and prosecuted.
It was not being investigated. It was not being prosecuted, you lying sack of you-know-what.
Under the last administration. It is true that social services fraud, serious fraud, occurred in Minnesota.
Oh, by the way, how am I misinforming anybody? How am I misinforming anybody? Tell me that. Even the vice president says that the ICE agent was hit by Renee's, whatever her name is, Renee Good's car. Renee Good hit the ICE agent. There's like so many angles, so many different videos. If you don't have the ability to admit that she was in the wrong, I'm not the one providing misinformation. You are.
That's why under President Biden, the Department of Justice opened multiple criminal investigations that to date have already resulted in more than 90 people being...
And by the way, no, it's not BS. What I am saying is not BS. I want to let you guys know. What I'm saying is my truth and my analysis. And you know what my analysis says? No, either way, by the way, even if he stood in the way, you should not push the gas, even if you're turning away. He was hit by the car. Period, end of story. He was hit by the car. If you hit any sort of federal agent with a car, you're either going to jail for a long time or the alternative, which I'm sad that the alternative happened. I really am. It makes me sad that she was shot. It really does. It actually does. But she was at fault. She was also at fault. He was at fault. She was at fault. Both parties were at fault. How am I lying? By saying that both were in the wrong? That the ICE agent was in the wrong? That she was in the wrong? I'm not lying. I think you guys are trolling because there's no way that you guys could believe your own bullshit right now. And I'm not gonna let the leftists in my chat bully me. I'm not gonna let you woke people bully me. If you guys want to be woke and be bullies, you guys go for it. I'm just speaking my truth, okay? And whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't really matter to me. All that matters is I want to say what I have to say. I say what's on my mind, and I'm being honest, and I'm giving an opinion. All right? That's my opinion. That's my analysis. Everybody's had their own analyses throughout this, and everybody has a right to have their own analysis. So you guys finished? Let's keep going.
Being charged and 64 people being convicted of federal criminal offenses. Indeed, Minnesota lawmakers...
Before we continue further, guys, make sure that you guys tap the subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, the better. But yeah, if you guys can, subscribe to the channel and also like the stream too. Liking the stream and subscribing to the channel really does help the channel grow in more ways than one. Oh, the creator goal is still going. My bad. Hold on. Give me 1 second, you guys. Frog eat frog, baby. We got frog eat frog in the house, and he's got spam. He's putting spam emojis. Yeah, JD Vance is the man, dude. Vance 2028. Let's go. I want Vance in my pants. I do not want walls on my balls, but I want Vance in my pants. Let's go.
acted to root out and prevent fraud going forward in the public benefits program. That's why last year, the Minnesota legislature passed legislation to empower the governor to cut off payments or to claw back funds whenever fraud is detected. And that's why Governor Walz appointed the first ever director of program integrity to make sure the state is effectively investigating and preventing fraud and corruption in their programs. The fraud in Minnesota was discovered not by a right-wing social media influencer who's been harassing people in communities all over Minnesota.
No, he hasn't, by the way. You know what Nick Shirley did? And this guy is you know this guy's lying, because if you watched Nick Shirley's documentary, I guess you could say, his expose, whatever the hell you want to call it, if you watch what he did, he revealed a lot of fraud. Like, he revealed not only red flags, just fraud abroad. And it's not harassment to ask questions. And by the way, Nick was extremely polite to these fraudsters during his interview process. So either way, you guys say whatever the hell you want to say. Hello says cult mentality is truly fascinating. Do you realize, hello, that you're part of a cult too? You could say that I'm part of a cult, and that's fine, but you need to also admit that you're a part of the cult of woke. You're a woke person, and you're a part of the cult of woke. So stop it. And yeah, I don't think I'm a part of a cult. I'm an individualist. I don't even get into groups. I have my own thoughts. I can't stand the wokies. They piss me off. The woke people piss me off, admittedly. And yeah.
In recent weeks, but by the hard work of real local investigative journalists, brave whistleblowers, and state and federal auditors. It is this fraud, which we must take seriously, is not unlike the $2.5 billion breathtaking Medicare fraud scheme uncovered last year in the home state of the chairman of this subcommittee, as he himself mentioned, or the massive COVID-19 unemployment assistance fraud scheme uncovered in Chairman Jordan's home state of Ohio.
Yeah, and those are bad. Well, what's your point? This is, by the way, you guys have not been doing a lick of anything. This fraud has been occurring for a very long time, even pre-COVID, that's happening in Minnesota. So I just don't trust what you have to say, and I think that you're a liar. I think that you're woke, and let's just keep watching.
Fraud is endemic in government all over the world. There are fraudsters attacking our public institutions, trying to undermine them and rip them off.
And the only fraudster I see is this guy. I mean, the only legit fraudster that I see at the moment is this guy. Straight up, dude.
Even our president has been convicted of 34 counts of criminal fraud.
By the way, those 34 counts, you got to look at the substance of that. It was New York. And what were those 34 counts? What were those 34 counts? Let's take a look. What was Trump's 34 counts that everyone keeps talking about? Let's take a look. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's see what's happening. On May 30th, 2024, a New York jury, by the way, which we obviously know that New York hates Donald Trump because they're all woke in New York. Of course they're going to hate on it's of course they're going to put 34 counts of bullshit onto him. So a New York jury found former President Donald Trump guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. This was the first time a U.S. president was convicted of criminal charges. Here's a breakdown of what those 34 counts were. The 34 counts relate to documents filed by the Trump administration and organization in 2017 to cover up a $130,000 hush money payment made to an adult film actress, Stormy Daniels, in 2016. Okay. Let's see. So you're saying that each of these checks counts as their own conviction? Let's see. The allegation. Prosecutors argued that Trump instructed his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to pay Daniels to remain silent about an alleged affair. Okay. So he paid her hush money and he didn't want anybody to know about it. And then he fraudulently disguised the reimbursement of the payment as legal services. Yeah, did he label it incorrectly? Sure. But that doesn't mean 34 counts. So the 34 charges represent 34 individual documents? That's stupid. Yeah. And then why are they felonies? So it says under New York law, falsifying business records is typically a misdemeanor. However, it becomes a Class E felony punished up to 4 years in prison per count if the false entries were made to commit, aid, or conceal another crime. So, by the way, it's not a crime to settle things outside of things. So if you want to give somebody money to keep them silent, you can give them money to keep them silent, especially if they agree. So there is no crime that took place. So basically, the 34 counts that you're talking about are absolute garbage, and there needs to be more context. Because guess what? Trump's the man, and he's the man.
by a jury of his
And you're all a bunch of losers, by the way. All you leftists out there, I'm sorry. You guys are just terrible. You guys, first off, I've gotten the worst treatment from lefties that, like, I can't even describe how much I can't stand the left wing. Like, left-leaning people these days piss me off because all they could do is be pieces of garbage to me for liking Trump. It is not a bad thing to like Trump. I like him. I think he's the man. And you know what? And because you woke people don't like Trump, it makes me love him even more. Anything that the woke people hate, I love.
Peers in New York related to the fraudulent payments made to porn star Stormy Daniels, and also civilly convicted in New York for different kinds of real estate.
Also, don't forget to tap the subscribe button, though. The more subscribers we get, the better. So please subscribe to the channel. It does help the channel grow. And if you can, also press the like button too. The more likes we get, the better. It helps us out. It makes me feel like I've got a bigger dong than I actually do, because my dong is kind of tiny. Yeah, that's right. I got a tiny dong. Be nice to me about it, please. Yeah, but thank you guys for subscribing to the channel, though. We're currently sitting pretty at 7,020 subscribers, and I appreciate it. So let's keep going, man.
Fraud. Fraud is not headquartered in one state or one municipality, much less one ethnic, racial, or religious community. But President Trump couldn't resist the temptation to use fraud in Minnesota as an occasion to mobilize the power of the federal government to bully and intimidate first and second generation Somali Americans who live.
Tristan Allen says, yeah. No, I agree, Tristan. Absolutely, 100%, man. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'm just tired of woke people telling me what to do, dude. Hey, if you're woke, stop telling me what to do. I don't want to hear your woke point of view. I mean, I'll listen to it. I don't want to hear it, but I'll listen to it. There's a lot of things I don't want to do in this life, but I do it anyway, you know?
In that state. Many of the people convicted in the fraud schemes were...
Oh, you guys, don't forget to tap the like button. The more likes we get on this video, the more it gets pushed out on the algorithm. So
laugh out loud.
Please tap the like button. Please tap the subscribe button. It does wonders for the algorithm, and it does wonders for my small dong. And who subscribed, by the way? I heard laugh out loud. Onwards, I'm going to give a shout out to Onwards. He just subscribed, or he or she. Thank you so much, Onwards, for subscribing to the channel. I love it, man. We're growing, dude. We're at 7,020. We're at 7,021 subscribers. We're on pace to getting 8,000 very, very shortly. Maybe within a week. We might even get to 8,000 subscribers in a week. Could you imagine that? If we could pull this off, man. We could pull this off, baby. Let's go. Let's go, my brony brothers. We're here to make the woke people cry. The woke people will always get pissed off at us, but it is up to us to be who we really are at the end of the day. All right? It's okay to like Donald Trump. It's okay to love DT. If you love Donald Trump, man, you love Donald Trump.
History. So, under the pretext of cracking down on a fraud that had already been discovered, investigated, and prosecuted, Trump surged federal immigration officers to Minnesota.
Thank you so much, Marcus Allen. I appreciate it, my brony brother. Hell yeah, bro. You're a pink brony bro, and you dance at the gay club. Oh, my God. Thank you for the 100 for 2 jewels. I greatly appreciate it, my brony bro. Let's keep going.
And aimed them at the Somali American communities, calling the people who live there repeatedly garbage. This is despite the fact that it is a complete non sequitur, obviously, to send immigration agents to conduct fraud investigations. And the deployment of law enforcement resources against an entire ethnic community after the criminal prosecution of a small group of its members is to promote.
I will say this. There's a lot of fraud that's happening with this particular community, and it needs to be called out. It needs to be revealed. And it's not racist to notice a pattern. Like, I'll give you an example. If it was white people doing this, I would be just as mad. I really would. I don't like knowing that there's excessive levels of fraud happening in any community. I don't care whether they're white, Somali, I don't give a shit. If there were white people doing daycare schemes, I would still be mad. I'm serious. I'd be pissed because I don't like it when groups of people set up fake businesses just to money launder. It's fucked up. There is a pattern, by the way. CV, if you don't know, I think you're trolling, but if you don't realize that there's a pattern, come on, brother. You know there's a pattern. You see it. And you're intentionally skirting the pattern. You're skirting the pattern.
Promote the sinister ideas of.
And by the way, CVLVC7 is an example of somebody who is so woke that they can't tell the trees from the forest. Or I can't see the forest from the trees. They can't see the forest from the trees. That's how the term goes.
Collective guilt. And
by the way, I'm not a fan. By the way, when we bailed out the banks, when the banks were bailed out by the government using our tax dollars, by the way, I was pissed. I was pretty young then, but I was pissed because I knew that's not how it's supposed to work. I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist at the end of the day. I don't like it when government bails out big businesses. Big businesses, whether it's too big to fail or not, sometimes it just needs to fail. Hey, thank you, Multi-Dane 007. I'm going to put your name. I'm going to put Multi-Dane 007 back on the board real quick. Give a shout out to this person. Make sure you guys subscribe to Multi-Dane 007. We appreciate you, Brony. I appreciate you, man. You're a rock star. I want to be a cock star. I'm through with standing in line and clubs and never getting. It's like the bottom of the ninth, and we're never gonna win this.
And guilt by association, two doctrines that are emphatically rejected in Anglo-American jurisprudence and by our courts. The community targeted in Minneapolis is made up, incidentally, overwhelmingly of U.S. citizens. 95% of Somalis in Minnesota are U.S. citizens, including 58% of whom were born in the United States. Well, what is the Trump administration's actual record on fraud? Well, let's see. President Trump pardoned the big-time drug dealer and convicted fraudster Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, sparing him a 45-year criminal sentence after he brought in...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. That's not good. I don't know what the reasoning behind it was, but there might have been a good reason. There might have been a bad reason. I'm not a fan of it.
400 tons of cocaine into our country. That's 800,000 pounds of cocaine that he said, quote, we are going to stuff up the nostrils of the gringos. And Trump pardoned him.
That is crazy. I'm a little sad that Trump pardoned him. I really am. That's not good, man.
Yeah. And if you're interested in that particular sweetheart deal, that would be a great subject for a hearing, Mr. Chairman. Just last week, again, the president granted pardons to more convicted fraudsters. Julio Herrera Vellatini was scheduled to be sentenced this month for participation in a political corruption and fraud scheme alongside his co-defendant, the former governor of Puerto Rico, Wanda Vasquez. In late 2024, when Mr. Herrera was facing felony bribery charges in a different case, his daughter donated $2.5 million to the MAGA Inc. Super PAC. Then in May 2025, Mr. Herrera's lawyer, who had...
I mean, this is interesting. I didn't know much about this, but I'm willing to hear out these allegations. 50 allegations.
Served on President Trump's legal team, negotiated a deal allowing him to plead guilty to a trivial misdemeanor offense instead. Several months later, Mr. Herrera's daughter...
You guys don't forget to subscribe to the channel, though. Please tap the subscribe button. Please tap the like button. But yeah, so it's saying that Trump's $1.55 billion kickback to convicted fraudsters, Todd and Julie conspired to defraud $36 million from banks. Trump erased more than $22 million they owed. Paul, I don't know what the reasoning behind this is. Hopefully he had a good reason. Maybe not. Paul Wolfgang stole more than $10 million from employees. Trump wiped out $4.4 million he owed, and then Ross Ulbricht ran an illegal online drug marketplace and used fake IDs. Damn, dude. Trump relieved him of nearly $184 million he owed. Yeah, that's crazy.
Donated another $1 million to MAGA Inc. And what do you know? President Trump generously granted Mr. Herrera a full and unconditional pardon just last week. They're making a fraud out of the pardon process in America.
That is pretty messed up,
rules man. As they pardon recidivist, hardened, unrepentant fraudsters.
No, I'm not a fan of that.
You didn't start your business to do taxes.
That's a form of fraud,
Good
man.
thing we did. Block Advisors by H&R Block
Alex,
small
no,
business certified
you
tax
cannot,
pros to work for you with an average 14 years experience.
You cannot be. By the way, you cannot be a mod. Alex Narvaez, I have no moderators on this channel, and I do that intentionally. I think having moderators sullies the water. Because here's the thing: every moderator thinks that some people need to be blocked. I don't want anybody to be blocked. I don't want anybody to be censored. If I choose to block somebody, I choose to block somebody. But it's very rare. It is very rare for me to block anybody.
Indeed, in total, President Trump has pardoned more than 1,600 people, depriving victims, survivors, and taxpayers of an estimated, check this out, $1.55 billion in restitution and fines owed to us, the American people, while shockingly, because other presidents didn't do this, but Trump did, while shockingly allowing corporate fraudsters and tax cheats to keep all of their ill-gotten gains. This is a massive and unprecedented swindle from working-class people and crime victims as the administration gives all of these ill-gotten gains right back to the criminal fraudsters who stole the money in the first place. And finally...
But by the way, I know that that's an example of fraud, but you still can't dismiss the fact that there's like a $9 billion fraud scheme that's happening in Minnesota. That $9 billion has gone to waste. Sure, are we happy about Trump pardoning people and using the pardon process for personal gain and personal reasons? Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. But by all technicality, I think you could pardon as president, you can pardon anyone for whatever reason. I'm not a fan of the way he pardoned. I'm not a fan of the process. But at least Trump doesn't have the ability to throw anybody in jail, you know? That's the best part about the presidency is you don't have the ability to throw people in jail. You do have the ability to release people, though. So I don't know. I've got mixed feelings on it. I don't know. Trump's the man either way. All I know is this. If the left hates Trump, I love Trump. If the wokies hate Trump, I love Trump. That's all I got to say.
Mr. Chairman, President Trump has dismantled the infrastructure that actually prosecutes.
You guys don't forget to please subscribe to the channel and press the like button. Press the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow. We're really looking for more subs. We're really looking to push the channel out to more people, so let's keep watching.
White-collar crime and fraud in America actually roots out waste, fraud, and abuse. The Trump DOJ gutted the public integrity section at DOJ that prosecutes government officials who break the law. And nearly a year ago, his DOJ suspended enforcement of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which prohibits foreign bribery, saying all bets are off. He's gutted the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the first and the only agency devoted solely at the federal level to protect American consumers against being cheated by big financial corporations. The CFPB delivered $21 billion back to more than 200 million Americans who were victims of fraud and other predatory business practices, and the administration has been gutting the CFPB because they are on the side of corporate fraud and white-collar crime. That's the truth of what's going on there. They fired 17 inspectors general, the independent government watchdogs, whose job it is actually to root out waste, fraud, abuse.
The reason he fired them is because they weren't rooting out any waste, fraud, and abuse. It's pretty obvious. Think about it. With all the fraud that's been going on in Minnesota for as long as it's been going on, what were these inspector generals doing? I think that they deserve to be fired, if I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion, because clearly they weren't rooting any fraud out when they were in office to begin with. It sounds like they were incompetent boobs who deserve to get fired. Does that make sense? Come on, man. Come on. If somebody's incompetent, sometimes you got to fire their ass. It sucks, but sometimes it's what you got to do. Incompetence breeds incompetence. So fire the incompetent, you know? Also, make sure you guys tap the subscribe button and tap the like button. The more subscribers we get and the more likes we get, the better. We reached 7,000 subscribers recently, and we're going to get to 8,000 here pretty quickly. And then who knows? From 8,000 subscribers, we're going to get to 9,000. And then from 9,000, we're going to get to 10,000 in no time.
In corruption, and left 28 IG offices without Senate-confirmed leadership at all, allowing the corruption and the fraud to run rampant. So if we're going to have a hearing about fraud in America, Mr. Chairman, let's do it. Let's take in the full scope of what's taking place in our country. I yield back to you.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the chairman of the entire committee, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. Estimates are potentially as high as $9 billion we're looking at here in
Crazy.
what appears to be a
That's insane,
decade-long scam, fraud. I mean, I always look at one program I talked about a couple weeks ago in an oversight hearing was this Feeding Our Future program, where taking federal Americans' hard-earned tax dollars, taking that money and supposedly providing meals to children. Problem was there were no meals and no kids. They're just stuffing it in their pockets. So I think this is a great hearing to have. We appreciate the witnesses and the work that they've done. Ms. Larson and the work she does and actually making a difference, doing a legitimate program. Mr. Shirley for uncovering this, and Mr. Dexter and others who are here. So with that, I would yield back and look forward to hearing from our witnesses and the hearing itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recognize myself for just some UCs. The first one is President Joe Biden commutes sentences for two of Chicago area's most notorious.
It's crazy, though, if you think about it. The fraud that Nick Shirley revealed, he did a better job than the inspectors general, right? Nick Shirley did a better job than the inspectors general. If we're going to be completely honest with each other, he did a stellar freaking job. And we all know it. We all know it.
Is fraudsters. North Dakota judge blasts Biden for setting fraudsters free. Biden commutes roughly 1,500 sentences, pardons 39 in biggest single-day act of clemency, including fraudsters. Illinois lawmakers furious after Biden commutes sentences of state fraudsters. Without objection. And now,
Mr. Chairman, could I enter some as well?
yeah, please.
Thank you much. This UC request is from ABC News, January 2026, titled Trump's Pardons Forgive Financial Crimes That Came with Hundreds of Millions of Dollars in Punishment. This one is Arizona has recovered just 5% of taxpayer dollars lost in a $2.5 billion Medicaid fraud scheme. That's ProPublica. Columbus Dispatch. Columbus mother and daughter among 15 indicted in pandemic unemployment assistance fraud scheme. And finally...
Yeah, investigators weren't doing anything to... Dude, CVLVC7 or whatever the hell your name is, you do realize that investigators were not doing a thing about it. That you do realize that this fraud had been going on for a very long time in this community. And it was plainly obvious that the Minnesota government was turning a blind eye to the fraud happening within this particular community. We all know what community I'm talking about. So you tell me. You tell me, bro.
A Minnesota fraud scheme timeline from NPR News. Fraud investigation stretched across Wells's tenure.
Without objection.
Thank you guys for viewing, though. Please subscribe to the channel if you can. We just reached 7,000 subscribers recently. We're trying to get to 8,000 as quickly as we can, so please subscribe. Another thing I want to mention is make sure that you guys like the stream. The more likes we get on the stream, the better. So it does push us out on the algorithm faster into more people, and that means I get to annoy more people. So anytime I have the opportunity to annoy people I've never even met, I relish in that opportunity. Let's keep going.
And now, without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record, and we will introduce today's witnesses. Mr. Scott Dexter. Mr. Dexter is a former law enforcement officer, having served for 28 years. He also served with the Minnesota Department of Human Services Office of Inspector General, where he investigated fraud in the Child Care Assistance Program. Thank you, Mr. Dexter.
You know, I will say this, and just like Do is saying, Do said, but Nick Shirley did it with that guy David. Without him, Nick wouldn't have had a case. Do also says, so if we're going to give credit to Nick, we need to credit David the real dude with the info. Yeah, David brought the receipts. David brought the information. And that David guy is so cool. And I will admit, part 1 and part 2 of Nick Shirley's Minnesota fraud documentary, man, it was incredible. I mean, it showed. It was just bad how obvious all the fraud was. It was bad. It was so obvious that there was being fraud committed by this one community. And yet there's so many people denying it, even after seeing visual proof. Like, they're not even legit businesses because they can't even answer simple questions, unfortunately.
For being here. And Ms. Jennifer Larson. Ms. Larson is the founder and chief executive officer of the Holland Center for Autism, a clinic that provides services to children and young adults with autism. She started the Holland Center to serve families like hers that were not receiving adequate services and support elsewhere. Thank you, Ms. Larson, for being here today. Mr. Nick Shirley is an independent journalist. His recent investigations and videos have shed light on the scale of fraud in public benefit programs in Minnesota that are currently ongoing. And thank you, Mr. Shirley, for
That's our boy, Big Dick Nick, dude. Let's get it.
And Mr. Dylan Hetler Gaudet. Mr. Hetler Gaudet is the acting vice president of policy and government affairs at the Project on Government Oversight.
Who the hell is this dude? Who the what is this dude? What? Come on, man. Nobody's taking this guy seriously. Are they? He looks cool. He's got the purple suit, but he looks like he's trying to be Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat or something. What is this dude?
Oversight. POGO is a nonprofit organization that investigates alleged wrongdoing by the governor. Thank you, Mr. Hetler Gaudet, for being here with us today.
So that guy is tasked with investigating fraud? I don't know if that guy has the ability to investigate what's in his beehole right now, dude. Come on, man.
We welcome all our witnesses and thank them for appearing today. We will begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Please tap the subscribe button, though, and please tap the like button. It really helps us out. We're desperate. So please subscribe. It helps push us out on the algorithm.
Knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God. Thank you. You may be seated. The record will reflect that the witnesses have all answered in the affirmative. And at the instruction of Mr. Hetler Gaudet, I wanted to let all members of the panel know that when you have a question for him, please say his name so he knows that you are addressing him, please. I want the witnesses to know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony in 5 minutes, and we'll begin now with Mr. Dexter. You are recognized for your 5-minute statement.
Thank you. Chair, members of the community, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Scott Dexter. I'm a retired law enforcement investigator with 28 years of experience, most of it spent conducting criminal and financial fraud investigations, with experience in surveillance operations. In 2013, after retiring from law enforcement, I joined the Minnesota Department of Human Services as part of a newly created investigative unit.
No, I'm a bootlicker. Jeremy Stark, anything you call me, man, I don't take it seriously. You guys have overused the word Nazi and overused the word bootlicker at this point, so I'm just going to say I'm a bootlicker.
Within the Office of Inspector General. Our mission was straightforward: identify and investigate.
Because I can't take the left seriously whenever they call me Nazi and racist. First off, I'm 25% Hispanic, so I'm already a minority by default. And then also, I just don't get it. I'm not even a fascist. If I was a fascist, I wouldn't want any of these woke people to speak. I would be banning them left and right in my chat. You know what I do instead? I let them talk. I let the woke people just say whatever they want in the chat because I want to expose how stupid these woke people are by just letting them speak.
Fraud within the Child Care Assistance Program, known as CCAP. I was one of the original 4 investigators hired, all of us former law enforcement professionals with backgrounds in criminal investigations. Our cases were not selected based on the name of the center, the owner, or the community it served. They were selected based solely on tips, complaints, and the amount of CCAP funding being paid out.
Hell yeah.
The highest funded centers were reviewed first, and many of those centers were referred to us through the public tip line or by licensing inspectors who observed activity inconsistent with a legitimate daycare operation.
Oh, hey, you guys, we're trying to get to 100 likes on this particular stream, so tap the like button. If we can get to 100 likes in the next 30 minutes, that would be cray-cray. So we're trying to get to 100 likes, so don't forget to tap the like button, and let's see if we can get this to 100 likes. Let's shine a light on what is happening in Minnesota, and let's reveal the fraud that is happening in Minnesota in real time. Let's go.
What we found was deeply concerning. Many of these centers operated out of commercial spaces with windows totally covered, no visible play areas, and very few children ever present. Through surveillance, data collection, and review of attendance and billing records, we repeatedly documented patterns of overbilling, non-existent attendance, and in some cases, children being signed in for hours they were never actually at the center. Our investigative process was thorough and methodical. We collected licensing and billing data, installed covert surveillance cameras, reviewed hours of video, identified parents and employees, and calculated estimated overpayments based on actual attendance. Completed cases were then turned over to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for search warrants, interviews, arrests, and potential prosecution. As our investigations progressed, we noticed a trend. Many of the centers receiving the highest levels of CCAP funding were owned and operated by Somali individuals, and the families served were predominantly Somali. This was not the basis for selecting cases, but it did become the basis for accusations against us. We were labeled as racially biased, despite the fact that our case selection was driven entirely by funding data. An outside review was launched into our investigative practices. We were questioned about how we selected centers and how we conducted surveillance. Following that review, new restrictions were placed on our work, including mandatory panel reviews before we could move forward with investigations. Investigators were also pulled from conducting new or current investigations in order to enter data from all previous complaints received by DHS into a newly created database, a process that took nearly a year to complete. These changes significantly hindered our ability to do our jobs effectively. Ultimately, in 2019, I chose to retire because the investigative process had become...
By the way, those 34 counts were debunked, and they were bullshit. They were misdemeanor. Those 34 counts on Donald Trump were misdemeanors. You guys know that, right? To all you woke people in the chat, those 34 counts were misdemeanors.
So constrained that meaningful work was no longer possible. Through collaboration with federal agencies, including the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, we learned that millions of dollars in cash from the Somali community was being flown out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport by Somali couriers. At one point, nearly $70 million had been documented leaving the country halfway through a single year. Although we could not prove that the cash was obtained fraudulently, we strongly suspected that it was. We also encountered situations where federal partners were prevented from opening cases due to concerns about political sensitivities surrounding the Somali community and the refugee resettlement program. These decisions had real consequences, allowing fraud to continue unchecked. Throughout our work, we identified several...
This is crazy, man. I mean, what they're revealing, what he's revealing in this is wild. Like, it's a lot to take in. And sometimes it's a little bit tough to interpret. I'll admit that. I'm not gonna say like I'm some legal expert who understands all this mumbo jumbo, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, sometimes a spade really is a spade. You know, sometimes a spade's a spade. Sometimes a certain community is committing majority of the fraud, and I don't think that's a bad thing to admit, man. Make sure you guys please subscribe to the channel, though. We already got 7,030 subscribers, but we're trying to get to 8,000 as quickly as we can. So just the simple act of tapping the subscribe button really goes a long way. But if you guys can, also tap the like button, because it pushes us out in the algorithm very far, and it gives me the ability to annoy people that I've never even met before. So the simple act of liking the stream goes a long way, and I appreciate anything you guys could do to even just push us out there. Even sharing this stream to other people, I appreciate it. Share it on your social media.
Loopholes that made CCAP highly vulnerable to fraud. Centers were allowed to bill for the full authorized hours, even when children were present for only minutes. Billing records could be submitted up to 30 days later, creating opportunities for manipulation. Attendance records were handwritten, unreliable, and often incomplete. And despite our recommendations, no biometric attendance systems, no electronic submission requirements.
I love how all these daycares are getting all these millions of dollars, but they don't have any sort of systems in place. They have no documents. They've got no security systems. They got nothing. Like, why would anybody leave their kid at any of these freaking daycares, dude? It's probably because nobody wants to. Nobody actually probably does, because they're like, nope, no thanks. You guys are all too, well, you know.
And no state-installed security cameras were ever implemented. Chair and members, the purpose of my testimony is not to cast blame on any community. It is to highlight systemic weaknesses that allowed large-scale fraud to occur, and to emphasize the need for stronger safeguards, better oversight, and investigative processes that are allowed to function without political interference. Thank you for your time and your commitment to ensuring accountability within publicly funded programs, and I am prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter.
Are you struggling in your calculus class?
Yeah, I am. I'm struggling. I'm not even in college at the moment. I do like calculus, though. I wouldn't say I was really that great at it, but I do like it.
We're going to recognize Mr. Hetler-Gaudet for your 5 minutes.
Did they say Hitler? Did he say Hitler-Gaudet? Hetler. Okay, Mr. Hetler-Gaudet. Okay, I thought he said Hitler.
Of opening statement.
Chairman Biggs, Ranking Member McBath, and members of the sub.
He looks like such a... I'm not going to lie. I don't care what side he is on. I don't care if he agrees with me or disagrees with me. My God. Either this guy has swagger or he is the biggest tool I've ever seen. I can't tell. I've never been so conflicted personally. I'm confused on whether this guy has swagger or he's a big tool. It's one or the other.
Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today on the important issues of preventing fraud and protecting taxpayer dollars. My name is Dylan Hetler-Gaudet, and I'm the Acting Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs at the Project on Government Oversight. We are a nonpartisan, independent watchdog that promotes a more accountable, transparent, and effective federal government. We view it as our mission to combat abuse of power and corruption in the...
I don't know why this guy just gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. Something about this dude just screams, I'm a fucking tool, and I like to suck on tools. If you know what I mean. I like to suck on big units, is what this guy's saying.
The federal government, which
Let's
includes working on rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. The unfortunate truth is that fraud in government programs is a fact of life. Since the United States government has existed, fraud in government has also existed. For much longer than that, in fact. For as long as human beings have been organizing ourselves into societies and building institutions.
You know what's fraudulent? Can I tell you guys what's fraudulent? The fact that you guys aren't subscribing right now. Actually, we've been getting a lot of subscribers, more than I anticipated. But if you guys can, for those of you who have not subscribed to the channel, please, for the love of God, subscribe to the channel. We love you. Mwah. I wish I could give all my subscribers hugs and kisses. I wish I could. I just can't. But please subscribe to the channel. And, if you can, also tap the like button, because it does push the channel out to the algorithm a lot better than anything else.
To govern those societies, there have always been those who will seek to take advantage. This is a harsh but real truth related to the human condition, related to our fundamentally fallen and flawed natures. That said, it is still incumbent upon every one of us to do what we can to prevent fraud and to hold perpetrators of fraud accountable. This is especially true when the fraud implicates hard-earned taxpayer dollars and critical public programs and services. This is true whether we're talking about fraud in the context of the Feeding Our Future program or any other program in Minnesota, whether we're talking about welfare fraud in Mississippi, which involved the participation of a world-famous Hall of Fame NFL quarterback. This is true whether we're talking about fraud in the context of it being perpetrated by large multinational defense companies in the context of multi-billion-dollar contract they have with the Defense Department. The point here is that fraud and the abuse of taxpayer dollars is not related to any particular geographic, demographic, or other boundary or characteristic. So why do these things happen so much? Mostly they are caused by deep structural flaws, gaps, and weaknesses in our system of government. They're also driven by recalcitrance and resistance to change on the part of federal agencies.
I have zero. I understand what this kid's trying to say. But my God,
fraud is a
get to the
systemic
point.
problem, and it requires systemic solutions. So what are these solutions? I'm pleased to share a few of them with you today. We must first.
He's doing better than I would, for sure, on a stage like that. I would probably be sitting there being like, yeah, I got a half chub thinking about how much I love exposing Tim Walz. I got a full chub sitting next to Nick Shirley. That's what I'd be saying. Actually, you know what? How about this? How about we just mute this and I just talk for him. I got a cool purple suit. I'm the man, clearly. Dog, I know what I'm doing. Everybody's like hating on me, even though I'm the coolest dude in the room. Yeah. Hey, yo, what up, dog? Yeah, I'm the man, dude. I got a half chub right now, and I'm thinking about my boy Tim Walz and all the fraud he's committed. He's pretty sexy. We all love Tim Walz. We know that. Yeah. Oh, my God. Hey, yo. I'm the greatest rapper in the US of A. I'm a homeboy. I think I'm gay. Okay.
And we must add additional safeguards to make sure that whistleblowers can blow the whistle without fear of reprisal or retaliation.
Oh, I bet you blow whistles.
We must also take a long, hard look.
Very long and hard whistles.
At the architecture currently in place for how we track, monitor, analyze, and assess federal funding.
I think I'm just judging this guy by there's just something about him. He just seems like a tool. His demeanor. I got to admit, his suit is pretty sexy. But can you please lose the sunglasses? Unless you really need the sunglasses because you got light sensitivity, I totally get it. But can you lose the shades? If you don't have light sensitivity in your eyes, just lose the shades. Come on, man. Come on, my brony bro. You're a pink brony bro. And you dance at the gay club. Oh, my God.
Bluntly, That architecture is broken. Key resources like usaspending.gov are in desperate need of overhaul and modernization. We need to enhance and improve the quantity, quality, timeliness, and integrity of the data and information we collect on federal funding. We need to promote.
Oh, my brony, dude, Memphis Chang. Thank you for subscribing, my brony brother. Let's give another shout. You know what? We had a lot of bronies. I'm gonna flash 4 names on the screen. In the last 37 minutes, we had very key people subscribe to the channel.
Laugh out loud.
We had Onwards. Hell yeah. Thank you, Onwards, for subscribe to the channel 37 minutes ago. Thank you, Onwards. I appreciate you. Got to give a shout out to everybody. Multidane007 subscribed to the channel about 33 minutes ago. Thank you, Multidane007, 007. And then I want to give a shout out to Frederick. I can't even get the timing right. Frederick Flutie, thank you for subscribing. You subscribed about 10 minutes ago. I appreciate you, my brony. And then we got
Laugh out loud.
Memphis Chang, who subscribed just a minute ago. So to all 4 of you guys are the highlighted ones that that Streamlabs wanted to highlight. So I appreciate you guys for subscribing, man. Yeah, don't forget to press the subscribe button, man. It really helps the channel grow in more ways than one, and also even tapping the like button helps a lot too.
Promote more accountability, transparency, and compliance mechanisms within the chain of spending for federal funding. If we don't do this, we will never have a good grasp on where funding is going, where it's ending up, who is being helped by it, who is being missed by it, and what the ultimate impact is. Lastly, we must enact robust reforms and vigorous enforcement to crack down on corruption, cronyism, and conflicts of interest, which turbocharge waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. The presidential pardon is an acute example of this, with each of the last 2 administrations using the pardon power inappropriately to pardon convicted fraudsters. We must also promote reforms to crack down on the revolving door between agencies and industries, and to head off pay-to-play politics, all of which distort and corrupt decisions like the award of federal contracts.
Interesting. Yeah, I do think that here's the thing about politics, though, and this is what pisses me off about politics more than anything, is it really is a popularity contest. It is a he said, she said sort of thing. It's very much like being in high school, you know. And that's the unfortunate part, is really the world of politics is very much like high school. No different than working in a corporate environment too. Stocks Family Farm, my boy TJ says, I can't stay, but do you want to go to the Turning Point event next week? It's only $9. I can cover it for you if you want to go. I still don't know if I'm going to be able to go to it. I'm pretty sure I'm not busy that day, to be honest. I don't think I'm busy. It does depend on what time it is, though. If it's going to be fairly early in the day, I don't mind paying by the way, TJ, I don't mind paying the $9 myself. I appreciate you covering the charge, but it just depends on if I'm even able to go. It just depends on what I'm doing that day. I'm still going to consider it though. So I'll think about it, man. I will definitely think about it for sure. I may honestly just bring my camera and interview the protesters outside, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of protesters out there. So it might be more fun for me to just interview the protesters and do a live stream. We'll see, though. We'll see. 6 p.m. Okay. 6 p.m. Mo Bannon is the main speaker. Bannon? Wait a minute. Are we talking about... Hold on. Mo Bannon? Who's Mo Bannon? Let's see. Wait, are you talking about Steve Bannon? TJ, are you talking about 6 p.m. on a Monday? Are you talking about Steve Bannon? That's crazy, because if Steve Bannon is going to be in Coos County, I got to admit, I don't want to miss Steve Bannon. That would be fucking sick. Yeah, Maureen Bannon, Steve. Oh, and Steve Bannon. Okay. Holy shit, man. But yeah, I think I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to try. I would actually be honored to see Steve Bannon in person. I think he's an interesting fella. He's a little wacky sometimes for my taste, but I do find him to be very insightful, at least in the realm of politics. All right, let's keep going.
The takeaway here is simple. Focusing on individuals' salacious, scandalous examples of fraud is akin to looking at the symptoms and not looking at the disease or the root causes of the disease.
Oh, just his daughter's coming along? That's still pretty cool, though.
The project.
Either way, that's still pretty cool that his daughter's making an appearance because, I mean, either way, I love Steve Bannon. That dude's a stud.
On government oversight stands ready, willing,
But
and able to
I
work
dig
with
it,
anyone
man.
here
I
who
dig
wants
it.
to work on root causes and systemic solutions so that we can actually get our hands around waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption in the federal government. Thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hedler-Goddard. And I forgot to mention, when you get about 10 seconds left, I'll just tip that so everybody will know that as well. So, Mr. Shirley, you're recognized for your opening statement.
If you can't quit the P word, I want to let you know this.
It's an anti-porn. I can't quit the P word. I can't quit the porn, dude. That's funny.
I'm here today to speak.
I can't quit watching Nick Shirley. I got a Nick Shirley. It's funny. I think I watch more Nick Shirley videos than I'll watch porn. So maybe that just makes me gay. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder. Shit. I'm gay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm pretty straight, but I also act pretty gay too. I ain't gonna lie. For a straight guy, I act a little bit gay. I ain't gonna lie.
On behalf of
But I ain't Benny Johnson.
all hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens here inside of the United States, I've helped bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal.
Yep. Agreed, man. Agreed.
As I speak here, I want to ask everyone
Preach.
a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation?
Taxes are a black hole, dude. I get it. Taxation without representation is absolutely happening, brother. Let's keep on preaching, bro.
People erupted during the Boston Tea Party over just a few percentages as they believed they were being taxed without representation. Nowadays, we have the representation, but do we trust our representatives? My name is Nick Shirley, and I made a 41-minute video that I posted on platforms like X and YouTube. My video received over 100 million views, and it created instant change within our government. As the federal government launched investigations in departments such as Health and Human Services froze over $185 million in child care funding until businesses can prove they are legitimate businesses. I actually became aware of the fraud that was happening in Minnesota in June of 2025 as I was there for a separate video in Minnesota and started reaching out to me, asking me if I was making a video on the fraud. I said, well, what fraud? And this lady, she was a real estate agent, and she says, well, I'm having a hard time selling my properties because people are curious about these assisted livings that are popping up next door to some of the houses that we're buying or the home health care clinics that are popping up, and we don't know who's next to these houses that we're trying to sell. And I said, well, I'm not going to come and make a video if I...
Yeah, that's very true, by the way. Dosey Doe made a good point here. Nick Shirley is only in his early 20s and made a governor drop out of the race, like straight up. The kid is on another level, man. Nick Shirley is on another freaking level, and I can't help but love what this kid's accomplished. I think he's a total stud, and I hope he keeps doing what he's doing, man. I hope he keeps on going to these various places and uncovering what's happening in these. I want him to come to Oregon, quite frankly. I would not be surprised if there was I would not be surprised if Oregon was rife with fraud. I feel like we're probably super rife with fraud, and I think California would probably beat us out on the fraud scale, but I think we're probably pretty in line with California when it comes to all the systemic fraud that happens in Oregon. I bet federal tax dollars are going to waste here too. So, Nick Shirley, for the love of God, man, please come to Oregon. Save us from our incompetent leftist governors. Let's keep going. Governor.
I don't have any proof, so therefore I left Minnesota, and I continued to look for fraud in the best way I could. And as I was getting my own information, a man by the name of David reached out to me, and he said, hey, I have been investigating this fraud for years now. I have been driving by these child care centers. I've never seen a single child, and I have received the information from
David's the dude, by the way, David's the real hero of the story. At the end of the day, David's the real hero of the story, man.
Minnesota as to how much money these places are receiving. I said, great, let me come to Minnesota and we'll make this video about potential fraud that was taking place inside of Minnesota. We go to a daycare, and I'm instantly surprised by what we see. We arrived, and it was an industrialized building.
I live in a pretty small coastal town, and I'm able to make ends meet here. So, as long as I can make ends meet and the cost of living's low, and I'm making a lot of money, that's all that matters.
And there was 2 daycares registered at that building, and the first thing I noticed is all the windows are blacked out, and there's no footprints in the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds or anything that would make it look like it's a child care. But above me, a sign read,
That's because we all know it isn't.
open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there was nobody there. The doorbell did not even work. And then we continued to go to other daycares, and we noticed the same pattern. No children, blacked out windows, and one...
It's so sketchy. And this is why I don't understand why people are trying to defend what is obviously fraud in Minnesota. It blows my mind that people try to defend obvious fraud. And I think it's because it's a political thing. They don't like the fact that their side is being exposed as being soft on crime. It makes them look bad. And it does make the Democrats look bad because what they're doing is bad. And that's why they look bad. So the reason that nobody takes Democrats seriously is because they're so soft on crime. I don't take Democrats seriously because they are soft on crime. They're incredibly soft. They're soft like Charmin. And I really don't take the Democrat Party seriously at this point. And I don't think anybody really should. Frankly.
Daycare, a learning center, spelled...
The Quality Learning Center. That's my alma mater, by the way. My alma mater, Quality Learning Center. Many of fun times at the Quality Learning Center.
Quality Learning Center instead of Quality Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million, yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell Leering right on their sign.
By the way, can we just acknowledge that this kid's a stud? 23 years old, kicking ass on YouTube, revealing fraud up the butt, dude. What a stud, dude. I love this kid.
Governor Walz has said he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him. However...
Yeah, if the buck stops with Tim Walz, then why the hell is he not resigning? Okay, so Tim Walz allows all this fraud, right? And he says the buck stops with him, and then there's a lot of fraud going on, and it's all under his watch. So why doesn't he just admit that he's clearly not a competent governor, and why doesn't he just resign? This is my problem with Tim Walz, dude. Tim Walz is the worst of the worst. I'm so sick of seeing his name. I'm so sick of seeing him. I think Tim Walz is just a terrible governor.
How long would it take?
Hey, what up, Samuel Westall, my brony brother? How you doing, man? Yeah, the leering joke is getting old. I agree.
For you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account and not knowing where it's going. That's essentially what had been happening in Minnesota for years, as billions of dollars has been misplaced. And meanwhile, while people like Governor Tim Walz call people like me a white supremacist, delusional conspiracy theorist, he actually decided to drop out of re-election because I believe of how deep and extensive this fraud is. Thank you very much. Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy. How fast would you be proving that you are a legitimate business if you have children to actually feed and to take care of? you'd be sending in that paperwork instantly. I made this video to document the widespread fraud that has been taking place, as I truly believe all fraud is bad. And people like me, my generation, we're sick of seeing tax dollars go towards fraud.
Amen,
we just want
brother.
to have the same
Amen.
opportunities that our fathers and our grandparents had. And when you see people making millions of dollars by committing fraud, it upsets everybody from all age demographics. And so I hope today we can have a good conversation, and I think we can all agree that fraud is bad and that fraud is fraud. And I wish the best for our country.
Whoa.
I think
Did he say fraud is fraud, or did he say frog eat frog? Our homeboy frog eat frog, did he say fraud is fraud or frog eat frog? That's the question. Frog Eat Frog is a home dog of the channel, by the way. So did he give a low-key shout-out? I don't know. We're going to find out.
needs to be happening is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
Thank you,
God
Mr. Shirley.
bless the
And now I recognize Ms.
USA.
Larson for your 5-minute opening statement.
Chairman, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today on this
Yeah.
issue. My name is Jennifer Larson. I'm the founder and CEO of Holland Center in Minnesota. I've been an autism provider for over 20 years and started the organization for my son.
Charlie's the man,
I built
dude.
Holland Center because families with children like mine were desperate for help, desperate for services and stability, desperate for somewhere they could trust their child would be supported and helped, not sent home on a bad day, not babysat in a classroom and forgotten. We serve the children that don't succeed in public school settings. What started as a small...
No, I think what she's doing is incredible, and it sucks that people like her who are doing legitimate stuff are being overshadowed by certain communities doing illegitimate stuff in her field and industry. Pisses me off, dude. Yeah, Nick Shirley, I'm glad that you're revealing this fraud, man. Nick Shirley's the man, dude. He's the GOAT. Like the stream if you love Nick, dude. Big Dick Nick, dude. That's all I'm talking about, man. I got to take a whiz real quick. One moment, I'm going to take a quick whiz. Yeah. I love wearing... I don't mind wearing my shoes in the house, man. That's how I live my life. All right, here we go, man. Here we go. Now, 1, nothing wrong with me. 2, nothing wrong with me. 3, nothing wrong with me. 4, nothing wrong with me.
Our program grew over 2 decades into 4 locations that families rely on, not just for therapy, but for hope, routine, and survival. This work is a labor of love for me. Just like me, there are providers all over the state laboring with love to help these children. And this week, Holland and other programs all over Minnesota are collapsing. Not because we committed fraud, but because a crime ring was allowed to operate inside Minnesota's service system, and the
Yeah, a legit. It's funny. These crime rings are making actual legitimate businesses like hers look bad. And that's the problem, man. The crime, the fraud has to stop, dude.
government's clumsy response is now destroying legitimate, long-standing providers and devastating families that we serve. Families come to Holland, they do not have a backstop. Their children often receive 30 or more hours of therapy a week. These are not an extravagance. These are medically necessary.
Yep.
These children learn to communicate, regulate their emotions, reduce dangerous behaviors, and function in daily life. For many parents, therapy determines if they can work. Consistent staff and therapy prevents severe behaviors and regression. Structured care keeps children and their siblings safe. When services disappear, families do not just simply adjust. They face a crisis.
Yep.
For more than 2 decades, Holland has served hundreds of children year after year, employed hundreds of clinicians and staff, operated under yearly on-site audits, inspections, and documentation oversight, delivered real services to real children every day. We have always complied with everything the system required. Yet, within the last month, the state has withheld over $400,000 in Medicaid funds for my own program.
Wow.
And that number grows every single day.
That's crazy.
I had to infuse my personal funds to survive these weeks, but can't do that any longer without payment. Let me be clear. We are a fee-for-service industry. When we can't pay our staff, we lose our staff and children lose care. Families do not lose appointments. They lose the people they trust. What happened in Minnesota?
This lady clearly doesn't care about the Quality Learning Center. My former alma mater, she doesn't care about the Quality Learning Center. Even though clearly the Quality Learning Center is a fake daycare. That's where I graduated and got my education, okay? So keep the Quality Learning Center's name out your mouth, lady. I know that you run a legit business, but don't be mean to the Quality Learning Center for running a fake business. They don't know any better.
Minnesota had nothing to do with the ethical, long-standing autism providers. What did happen was organized criminal networks that exploited autism services by opening fake centers, billing for children that did not exist, billing for services never delivered, and stealing millions of taxpayer dollars in the process. These are not minor compliance issues. They are criminal enterprises. Families trusted that the government was protecting the integrity of the system. It failed.
You should know that the government's not protect. By the way, lady, we the people know that the government's a black hole. This is why we don't want to pay taxes. Because we instinctively know that our tax dollars are going to probably fraud. And that's why we don't want to pay taxes. Because we instinctually, and not just instinctually know, we just know that only incompetent people get into government, and then incompetent people know how to waste money better than anybody.
Now, instead of doing the obvious thing and targeting criminal actors, the response has been to freeze everyone's payments. That decision does not punish the criminals. It punishes innocent children and families. As Medicaid payments are delayed due to prepayment review by an insurance company that is in the business of denying claims, providers are reducing hours, cutting staff, and starting to close. Families are scrambling for alternatives that don't exist. Children are regressing. Parents are leaving jobs to care for their disabled children. Autism therapy cannot be paused without consequences. Loss of services can erase years of progress in weeks, and abrupt disruption of services can cause lifelong consequences in these children. This is not abstract harm. It is daily trauma for families already carrying an extraordinary burden. The simple solution to the problem: send the criminals to jail and allow trusted providers with decades of clean audits, verified ownership structures to continue providing prescribed ethical therapy and go back to paying them what we've earned and resume paying them on time. I built Holland for 20 years. Families built their lives around the care that we provide. All of that is risk of destruction.
Okay, and this is the problem. The government should have had some oversight to get rid of these fraudulent daycares. But because the Minnesota government didn't do that, yeah, legitimate businesses, like, I'm sure this gal is running a legitimate business. It seems like she knows her shit. But yeah, all you have to do is just prove that you're a legitimate business, and then they'll give you your funds.
Today, not by fraud, but by clumsy government response that failed to distinguish between criminals and caregivers. It treats children with disabilities.
The gentlelady will suspend. We've got a photographer there. We allow photographers in here, but not between the panel of the witnesses and the members. You will please move.
Okay.
Photographer, please move.
Thank you.
Like right now.
Okay. Sorry.
We'll
All of that is at the risk of destruction. Sorry, can I continue?
Yeah, please continue.
Not by fraud, but the clumsy government response that fails to distinguish between criminals and caregivers. It treats children with disabilities as acceptable collateral damage. Fraud must be stopped and criminals prosecuted. I'm a taxpayer. I live in Minnesota. This is disgusting. But families and children should never pay the price for government failure. Thank you.
We will now proceed under the 5-minute.
Don't you have to prove that you're a real... Don't you have to basically prove that you're a real government? Not a real government, sorry. A real business? And then you'll get the funds? I know that she's saying that she's a real business, and that's fine, but because of all the Somali fraud that happens, we don't know who to trust. So I think all of these different businesses need to prove that they're a real business before they get any more government funding. Seriously, that's the way it should be. Absolutely. So she needs to get her paperwork, send it up, and be like, hey, I'm a real business. Can we get the funds, please?
Minute rule with questions.
And she sounds like she could send the proof. Send the proof.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr.
Because we can't trust anything from Minnesota at this point after all the fraud that's happened. We can't trust it. So she needs to send her paperwork. And then once she gets the paperwork there, then proving that she's a real legitimate business and not a fraudster thing, then they'll send money to her to keep the business going. But until you can prove that you're a legitimate business, in Minnesota at least at this moment, you don't deserve any money. Straight up. I mean, that sounds harsh, but it's kind of not.
Tiffany for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Besides the work Mr. Shirley has done, I want to recognize Powerline, who has done yeoman's work exposing this over the last decade, what has happened. And I just want to say, Ms. Larson, I live in northern Wisconsin. There's an autism school that was started in my community. Where did we visit when we wanted to start that a decade ago? We came to Minnesota, where you have been leaders in having good autism programs. And I think about the tremendous fraud that has gone on in nutrition programs, housing programs, but is there anything more heinous than abusing an autism program?
I can't imagine. It's so hard to believe that people are faking that children have autism and stealing money from the government. When I'm sitting here with my 25-year-old non-speaker, and now children like my son aren't going to have services because they stole money from the government and faked these things. And it's just, it is, like I said, disgusting.
With what's going on right now.
Did she have to bring her son on that one, though? I understand she's trying to prove a point, and I understand it's clear the kid's got autism, the dude's got autism and shit. But did she really need to use him as a prop dummy? That just feels a little mean.
What are the families that you're serving? What are they saying?
They're scared.
What are they doing?
Everybody's scared. There are centers that are, programs that have already shut down. Staff are leaving. I, this week, asked my staff who will take unpaid leave because we can't keep going like this. I'm like I said, I'm 400,000 plus in debt now, and I'm not sure these are going to get paid back. I went to a bank and they wouldn't back the receivable because they said that's not a receivable. If it's prepayment review, you may not get it.
And Ms. Larson, none of this would have happened if the fraud did not occur. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Mr. Dexter, could have something been done about this earlier?
Yes. As I stated in my opening testimony, in the years that I worked there, we identified how fraud was occurring, the loopholes that existed, and we.
What were some of the warning signs, Mr. Dexter?
Well, the fact that part of our job was to go and collect attendance records. We would find attendance records that were either incomplete, non-existent. Obviously, there were times we found them to be fabricated because they were given to us way later, and the same with billing records. They were allowed 30 days after the end of the billing period to submit billing records, so they were not immediately available to us, and it kind of allowed overpayments or double payments to be overlooked. So we had the attendance record issue. We had the fact that there was no way to verify who was signing the children in and out, no way to verify what times those children were signed in and out.
Could I do a follow-up here? In Wisconsin, we learned this month that Ibrahimia Diop, a Minneapolis school finance boss, placed on leave for failing to submit required financial paperwork with the Minneapolis School District and for signing questionable contracts linked to the Somali fraud scandal, was hired by the Milwaukee Public School System as a deputy superintendent at a salary of $240,000 a year.
What a stud, dude. What a stud. Everybody's pissed off that I'm stuffing my face.
Do you think
my fat face
might that be a warning sign that this person was involved, may have been involved with fraud in Minneapolis? Shouldn't they be concerned in Wisconsin?
If you guys can, though, please subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers we get, the better. We just reached 7,000 subs. We're on pace to getting 8,000 here, probably in a week. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if we got about if we got to 8,000 subscribers within the week. Like, I could see that happening. It may not happen, but I can see it happening, man. So if you guys can, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow overall. And if possible, please tap the like button if you enjoy the stream.
That this is going, that they're hiring someone like that?
Well, if somebody that they hire has a past history and practice of doing that type of stuff, I would be very leery of it occurring again, or that being the basis that they're hired.
So Governor Evers refused to open the books and is blocking federal audits of our food stamp and Medicaid programs. And he also vetoed 4 auditor positions.
And by the way, like I said, if you guys subscribe to the channel, you're basically saying, hey, we don't want the woke people to win. We're tired of the woke people telling us what to do. So by you subscribing to the channel, it's kind of like a big middle finger to all the woke people. So please, for the love of God, subscribe to the channel and like the stream to push out the stream even further into the algorithm.
In a recent budget, do you think that is also a warning sign?
Yes, if it's preventing...
Or ill-advised, would that be a better way to pose the question?
Yeah, if it prevents the oversight and the ability to audit and look at the records to make sure can have a check and balance system, I think that'd be very unwise because, again, that allows fraud to occur.
Because, Mr. Shirley, what is happening in Minnesota, it could be happening throughout the United States. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, it's not just happening in Minnesota. I think we can all agree on that. It's probably happening just about anywhere, which is extremely unfortunate, by the way. It's probably happening in a lot of bigger cities, too. I wouldn't be surprised if it was happening in like Seattle or Portland or it's happening in Minneapolis, obviously. It probably happened in San Francisco, probably happened in Los Angeles. I mean, we can only take guesses. But, I mean, if this crap is happening in Minnesota, if this sort of fraud is happening the way it's happening, it ain't going to stop anytime soon, man. I just don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Let's keep watching.
If there's one thing we've learned, or leered, as they say in Minneapolis.
Leered.
Isn't it possible that this is happening everywhere?
Yes, I believe it is.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. I now recognize the ranking member of the whole committee, Mr. Raskin, for his 5 minutes of question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank all the witnesses for your excellent testimony. Mr. Hedler-Gaudet.
Laugh out loud.
The administration has systematically undermined government oversight. The president has fired more than a dozen inspectors general, not for any cause, but seemingly just in retaliation for doing their job.
No, they didn't do their job. That's why they got fired. Because the inspectors general wouldn't have gotten fired if they didn't do their jobs. And clearly there's a big fraud ring happening in Minnesota. The reason the inspectors generals got fired is because of how much fraud they've allowed. It's pretty obvious, dude. Can you not put 2 and 2 together? Trump firing the inspector generals, he fired them because they're incompetent.
Laugh out loud.
And they clearly weren't needed because they weren't doing their job, is the reason he fired them. So for you to think it's a retaliatory measure, no, it's basically like, hey, you're not doing your job because you've clearly allowed so much fraud to happen in all these states.
Laugh out loud.
So you just need to get fired. That's basically what happened.
Jobs and to block unwanted investigations. President Trump has defunded the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency. He's removed independent leadership at the Office of Special Counsel and Office of Government Ethics, blockading whistleblowers and numerous investigations. What is your assessment, Mr. Hedler-Gaudet, of the Trump administration's apparent system?
Oh, by the way, I'm just cycling through all the people who subscribed today. Make sure you guys subscribe to all the people who are flashing on the screen, by the way. If you guys subscribe to the channel, it really does help the channel grow. Thank you, Frederick Flutie, for subscribing. Thank you, Memphis Chang, for subscribing. Thank you, all of you guys, for subscribing. Man, you guys are incredible.
Laugh out loud.
Systematic opposition to internal oversight mechanisms in the federal government.
And the main problem is these guys were turning a blind eye. This is where the problem lies. They were turning a blind eye to obvious fraud. And when you turn a blind eye to obvious fraud, man, it's pretty sick. It's disgusting. And we're tired of it. We're tired of being told that up is down and down is up and blah, blah, blah. And Josh Brooks, thank you so much for subscribing. Josh Brooks just subscribed a few seconds ago. We're really trying to up the subscriber count, so please take the time to everybody, take the time to tap the subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow in more ways than one. It makes me feel like I got a bigger dong, but in all reality, I got a small dong. So,
Thank you, Ranking Member Raskin. My assessment is that the last year or so has been one of the most anti-oversight, anti-accountability periods that I've witnessed in our federal government. And I think the things you laid out, as well as others, are the sort of proof in the pudding there. And I think, speaking of things that should be giving us pause and raising red flags, that should all be giving us serious pause and raising serious red flags about how seriously people who claim to take oversight, accountability, fraud, how seriously do they actually take it?
And a lot of these people were afraid to report the fraud, or at least the people in government were afraid to actually prosecute it because they didn't want to be called racist. That's really what it is at the end of the day. It's white guilt run amok. These people who suffer from white guilt don't want to be called racist. And because it was pretty much one specific community that I will not name that was doing all of it, yeah, they didn't want to be called racist. They're like, I don't want to be called racist. I don't want to be called racist. That sounds bad. Ugh. Yeah, white guilt is a terrible thing, by the way. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys cannot stand the level of white guilt in the Democrat Party. But please subscribe. I really appreciate it.
There's been a lot of attention given to Donald Trump's extraordinary use of the pardon power, as in the pardon of violent insurrectionists and cop beaters. But There's also been a forgiveness of $1.5 billion in restitutionary fines that various people had to pay, and a lot of them are fraudsters. The DOJ in Trump's first term brought bank fraud and tax evasion charges against reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley. They were convicted in 2022. They owed more than $22 million in restitution to taxpayers and to their victims. But then Trump suddenly, inexplicably pardoned them and forgave all of the money that they were supposed to be paying back to their victims. Todd Chrisley bragged publicly about his get-out-of-jail-free card, jubilantly exclaiming, "The feds got effed." Let me give you one other example. Trump, on April 23rd, issued a pardon for Paul Walchuk, a former nursing home exec who pleaded guilty to multiple tax crimes. What he was doing was taking millions of dollars from the nurses and orderlies and doctors who worked for him at his facilities, took more than $10 million that way, instead of giving it to the IRS.
And that sucks.
Yeah,
we don't want to, nobody wants to give any money to the IRS. The ultimate thieves at the end of the day. If you want to spell thief, just spell, here's how you spell thief. IRS. That's how I spell thief, at least. I might be wrong on the spelling. But yeah, my spelling of thief, and I think if I'm right, I might be wrong, but that's how I spell it out. I spell out the word thief as IRS.
Their taxes. He used the money to buy a $2 million yacht and to pay for high-end jet travel and to go shopping at Bergdorf Goodman and Cartier. Well, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for stealing his employees' tax withholdings, and he was ordered to pay his employees back $4.4 million for the money he looted from their accounts. So he's gonna have to pay that back, but then he got his mom to go to a glitzy fundraising dinner for Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and she paid $1 million for her ticket.
Hell yeah.
Then, right after Trump was inaugurated in
What a
his second
stud, dude.
term, Walchuk petitioned for a presidential pardon.
Anyway, you guys, we already got to see Nick Shirley. That was pretty sexy. We may react to this a little bit later. I'm not too sure. I'm going to jet. I'm already tired of hearing all this. Like, I'm already, falling asleep. But before we sign off for the night, please make sure you guys send a super chat if possible. Super chats really help the channel in a lot of ways. It keeps the lights on, or even gifts. So if you guys want to give any gifts or any super chats before we end the stream, that would be extremely helpful, actually, to keep the channel funded. But other than that, though, super chats, gifts, it helps. If you can't, no worries. Even the simple act of tapping the like button helps a lot, and then even subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of this content. We like to react to this content. We like to see what's going on in the world every now and then. I like to poke fun at politics. I think I think politics is downstream from artarded, is what I like to say. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the government. I'm not a big fan of federal tax dollars going to waste like that, and stuff like that. But I do want to thank you guys for taking the time to view this, and I will be live a little bit later, probably around maybe 8 or 8:30. I think 8 or 8:30 is probably when I'll be live doing a show. Outside of it, though, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to subscribe to the channel, because we really are trying to up the subscriber count. Currently, we're sitting pretty at 7,035 subscribers. Once again, we have 7,035 subscribers. So even the simple act of tapping the subscribe button and becoming a subscriber to the channel means the world to me. And it really helps us, I'm losing my voice a little bit, but it really does push the channel out to a wider audience so more people can watch and leer as much as possible. But I do want to thank you guys again. I'm ending the stream in 3, 2, 1, and don't forget